All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I think this is going to make Fluff Tube. I hope it's going to make Fluff Tube, depending on what we talk about. I'm here with the legendary Ammon Bundy. He's best known for his 2014. It was 2014 when you had that standoff with the Obama feds. Spent 2 years in solitary confinement. And after all that, and oh yeah, you got tasered a few times too, which we have a I had the same thing happen to me a few times. So,
nice.
But now you're running for the Idaho governor. So, man, thank you for coming on Nino's Corner.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let's go back to 2014 when that standoff happened. A lot of the audience that's not aware of this or don't really remember. Can you refresh their memory on what happened in 2014, why the Obama feds came after you, how this all went down? Start wherever you like.
Yeah. So, I mean, it starts all the way back in 1877. My family went into the area, Southern Nevada area. No one else wanted it. It was just a desert. And they began to, divert water out of the Virgin River. They began to run their cattle on the hills there and to get water out of the springs and stuff up there, and made a cattle operation out of it that was enough to make a living. And then we fast forward about 70 years. The Bureau of Land Management, federal government, came in and was established. Actually, they were established then. And then you fast forward another, 30 years or so, and they started to adopt this extreme environmentalist agenda, and it became a problem, conflict between the ranchers and the federal government. And then you come to the early 1990s, and you've got then the Clinton administration that comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to take your ranch and make it a mitigation area for the desert tortoise." And my dad says, "No, you're not." And they say, "Yeah, we're going to take it and we're going to make it, this endangered species area." And my dad had a problem with that. And just so people know that, we have deeded rights to the grazing. They're deeded with the state of Nevada. They cover 11 different waters and grazing areas. And my dad stood on those and said, "Hey, these are my rights. They're not yours, and you're not going to take them." So there ended up ensuing about a 20-year legal battle that went back and forth and kind of at a standstill. And
20
ultimately,
years of a legal battle?
20 years. Yeah, 20 years.
So you're just dumping money on lawyers this whole time, that whole 20 years?
Well, my dad finally got to the point where he wouldn't respond. I mean, he went through some processes and he fought for, I don't know, probably 8-9 years. And then it was never ending. And he's like, I have to be able to survive. I'm going to ranch. This is my ranch and I'm going to ranch. And so he literally just got to where he was just ranching and couldn't and wasn't going to respond to the courts. He knew he was right. He understood where his situation was. And the courts and the federal government didn't know what to do with him because, he's just standing there. He's going to ranch. And he explains this. I like his analogy of the trying to fight, the federal courts. He says it's like a man comes into your house and beats up your wife and children, so you take him to court to get justice. And you're in the courtroom, and they say, "All arise for the honorable judge," and in walks a man with a black robe, and it's the very man that beat up your wife and children.
Oh, geez.
He goes, that's what it's like trying to find justice in the federal courts with federal judges, federal prosecutors, federal, rules of prosecution, all the federal money, all of that against one little ranching family in a desert. And so he just went back to ranching, and that's where it stood for almost 20 years.
So basically he just ignored them and that worked?
Well, it worked for 20 years. And then what happened is, not to get too much into the legalities of it, but all of their orders and everything expired. And then in 2012, the federal government came in and they came and went to the sheriff's department and all of that. And they said that we're going to come in and try to, remove my dad from his ranch. And remove the cattle, all the infrastructure and all of that. And you got to understand that the watering system that's in place there is the lifeblood of, hang on, I'm not sure what happened. So am I still there?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
you.
it's the lifeblood blood of our ranch, the watering system. And some of that's, well over 100 years old, that water infrastructure. Um, anyway, they were planning on taking that all out and destroying that. And the sheriff said, well, you don't have any orders that are in place that have all expired from the court. And so the sheriff's like, you gotta go back and, go through the whole thing again. It's all expired. And so the, Obama administration now just basically strong arms the court to say, hey, give us another order. And so they just issued another order, even though it was well expired. None of it was litigated again. All of it, was a bunch of garbage. And then in 2014, they sent a 213 armed, basically federal army, and surrounded our ranch house, snipers on the hills, locked down the ranch, M-ramps, helicopters. I mean, it was like a scene out of the Hollywood movie,
Almost
right?
like something out of David Koresh Waco.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they were setting it up for. If you've seen Red Dawn, that's what it would kind of remind you of, coming into that little community. They took over a hotel, barricaded it off, literally were patrolling through the little town of Mesquite and Bunkerville. I mean, helicopters, M-ramps. I mean, it was insanity. Guards.
So
And then they began to.
They bring in the whole cavalry. They're all there. They surround your ranch, right? So it's like you're surrounded.
Correct.
And
they
at what
began
point,
to.
so at what point did you say, like, I'm sure your whole family was full of fear. What were you guys thinking during this moment? Like when you're starting to be surrounded, what's going through your minds?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the time I wasn't living on the ranch. I came up later to help my dad, but I was there, and I right in the middle of it is when I came. And yeah, I mean, they had actually reached out, and through communication with my older brother, Ryan, they said that if we resisted in any way, that this would be another Waco or Ruby Ridge. And so, they were threatening that if we did anything, if we made any wrong move, any wrong step, and they actually had sniper surveillance on the hills around our home. And so they were doing this, basically kind of holding us down, making sure we didn't, try to do anything, while they took helicopters and were killing the cattle from the air. They were driving them, separating from their baby calves, leaving the calves out in the desert. They were just dumping cattle that they'd shot and killed in mass
They
graves
shot your
that they
cattle?
dug. They began to destroy.
They shot your
Oh yeah,
cattle?
they began by helicopters and then dumping it. Absolutely, dumping not all of them. They killed, and they were dumping. And then they began to destroy the water infrastructure too. They were taking backhoes and dump trucks up there and began to destroy the water infrastructure, and the corrals and some of that stuff, like I said, is over 100 years old. And we were kind of just, and so we just started filming what we could and explaining what we could. And those, started going out, and people started getting more understanding what was happening. And then on Wednesday, so their operation started on that Sunday. So on Wednesday, they were coming out of the mountains with a dump truck and a backhoe, and we had probably about 30 or 40 people that were kind of protesting and demonstrating. We kind of got brave enough to go down by the road and protest them when they would come down come onto the main road. And they decided that they were going to engage with us. They got out with their dogs. They started sticking dogs on us. And then ultimately they tased me multiple times, because I mean, in a way, they might've said I deserved it, but I wasn't. I wanted to know it was in the dump truck.
Yeah, but
And
they were really instigating the fight. They're
oh
killing
yeah,
your
for
cattle.
sure.
They were screwing with your land, and they were egging you guys on. They were trying to instigate a fight. So this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
I didn't
no
know this
doubt
part of
that.
the story.
Yeah, there's no doubt that they they were definitely trying to, and they were just destroying our entire ranch livelihood. I mean, we're talking about a 5 generational ranch here now, and they're destroying it simply because they say it's theirs.
Were
And
they making any demands, like come out with your hands up, leave the property? Were they saying anything that over a
no,
megaphone or
no,
something?
I mean, no, because it wasn't like that. They were just like up on the hills and guarding any access going out to the ranch. And you know, and then they were surveillancing our home with snipers, what they call LPO, what is it, LPGPs. And and so that, like, if there was any like effort to try to go and get cattle off the ranch, or try to help or go feed the cattle or water them or anything, that they would actually that's what they were there for, to stop that. And my brother one time was on the side of the road trying to film them with an iPhone, and they surrounded him and beat him to the ground, and then took him into detention for almost 24 hours. When we got him back, he's all bruised, head to toe. He's got bruises all along his face because they, roughed him up pretty bad when they
They mollywopped
when
him,
they
huh?
when they arrested him. And so that's what was going on. And on that Wednesday, we were kind of sick of it. We were pretty sick of what was going on. And so I drove my 4-wheeler in front of that dump truck with the backhoe, and it was being guarded by 13 other armed vehicles. And so, they sicked their dogs on us. They body slammed my Aunt Margaret. She was 56 years old, to the asphalt. They tased me multiple times, but we just stood there and we're just like, look, we're not,
When
you
you
can
say
kill
they
us.
tased you, hold on one second, back up a sec. When you say they tased you multiple times, were you down on the ground like, bzzz, or were you
I,
resisting and they
I
were
was
tasing, but it wasn't
definitely,
working?
I was definitely buzzing, and they had hit me good, but I just, I felt, the Lord, and I felt and I just was not going to go down. And they hit me, in the neck and the chest and in the stomach, and they hit me multiple times. But I was able to withstand their tasers while I stood there. It's on video, and while I stood there, and that's kind of what threw them off. They're like, it really threw them off that I was able to stand there and rip out their tasers. And they hit me 3 times, and the second and the third time, the first time I ripped it out myself, and the second and the third time, the people around me started ripping out the tasers. And not that, I mean, yeah, I believe me, I really felt it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
intense.
because I
It's
did.
very intense. Yeah. But then they were like, and they, like I said, they sicked their dogs on us and all of that. And we just stood there. We're like, hey, we're not going to let you just destroy this country. And it was way more than about some cows in the desert. It became about, about literally about freedom, about our government acting in a terrible way. And those videos went viral. Uh, and people from all over the world began to view those videos, and then people from all over the country began to respond to the ranch. They started showing up from all over.
Yes. So hold on. To me, it reminds me a lot of like what's happening right now with the truckers convoy. And this is why Trudeau has to tread lightly, because now he's in a situation like a standoff. Like that's why I wanted to bring you on, because this is kind of identical. So like now you're getting all this attention, all the videos are going viral. Then that leads to major exposure on the MSM, right? Then Fox picks it up, CNN, right? And then it just took
Right.
on a life of its own.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it happened pretty quickly, but the thing is the people ultimately, what rolled around Saturday, and the people they actually went up to the military type base that they had set up, because, I mean, like I said, this really was like a military type operation. And I say type because I don't want to insult the military, but it was a military type operation with the ICP plans and all of that. And so people went up, hundreds and hundreds of people went up to this military type basis compound, and ultimately gave them an ultimatum, that they needed to leave the area immediately. And they gave them an hour to leave. and the federal agents chose to leave, and they left, several hundred of them. They left in 107 vehicles, one right after another, left and abandoned all their gear, abandoned all the equipment,
So
abandoned
the help,
everything.
so essentially, with the help of these people that showed up because your videos went viral, you made the government stand down.
We did. We made the federal government stand down from a full military type operation inside the boundaries of Nevada and the United States of America. And it was because of the response of the people coming together and saying, look, this isn't going to work. We're not going to live this way, and you're not going to act that way.
I remember the visual, I remember you all with your horses and American flags. I'll never forget that. They made an imprint on my mind, and it's going to last me the rest of my lifetime. What you guys did was so profound. And it showed that we, the people, have the power to really take our government back. And if we make a stand, there's nothing that can defeat a united people.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's the lesson we need to learn. In fact, the very same thing that they were doing to us and other ranchers, and that 7-8 years ago, is what they're trying to do to everybody now. They were trying to say that our rights that were ours, clearly ours, that we had been using, in our family for 150 years, that are deeded with the state of Nevada, our property rights, they were trying to say that they were privileges, and that they owned them, and they were going to give them and take them. They were granted them to us, and now they could take them away. And we said, no, they're our property rights. They're ours. And the same thing now is happening to everybody. Let's just take, for example, the right to our body.
Don't say the word. Don't say the word. I know but point
I
your
won't.
shoulder if you're going to use it. Go like that, because I want this to go on YouTube.
I won't say it. Yeah, I won't say it. So let's just generally say, the right, our rights, they're trying to claim as privileges. That's what they're trying to do, and that's exactly what they were doing to us. Is that whenever they try to come force that the people come together, and they say no, they mean it, and they control the negotiations, not the federal government, not the federal agents, or whatever state agent, county, whatever. And so that is, and this is not something new. This is the way that liberty is preserved.
Right. And we're talking to a man here with Ammon Bundy, folks, that is tried and tested. This guy's battle tested. This guy actually went through this. What we're all suffering right now with our rights being taken away, what the big government, overreaching government, taking away all our rights, our inalienable rights. This man suffered. He went through it himself at a smaller scale, but now we're all going through it. The whole planet really is going through it. What we're seeing in Canada, what we're about to see in America. I think they're going to plan another truckers convoy through California all the way down to Washington, D.C. So I think we're at that boiling point. We're at that critical mass, critical consciousness where we're at that tipping point. And what do you have to say to people, that have to stand their rights? What kind of advice do you give them? Just hold the line?
Well, so it took me some time to understand and to break down everything that was going on. And I was able to do that and try to learn and glean from that, and also to share it, because we've been kind of duped into believing in this country that our rights are maintained in the ballot box or they're maintained in the courts. And that's not true. Rights are maintained. There's some things that happen there that are important. Don't get me wrong, but rights are not maintained there. Where rights are maintained is by a person claiming their rights, using their rights, and defending their rights. And that's how rights are maintained, saying, look, it belongs to me. It's mine. I own it. This is mine. And I will use it and benefit from it. And continue to do that. And then I will defend it. And then what we need to do is we need to come around each other when someone does that, says, look, this is my right. This is my home. This is my family. This is my body. This is my whatever, right? And then they use it as their own. And as they do that, if someone comes and tries to threaten and take away that right, then people need to stand around that person and say, no, this belongs to them. They're going to use it, and we will help them defend it. And we've seen this happen many, many times. Ultimately, that's what, our founders did to establish this country. And anytime rights have been, or liberty or freedom has been maintained, it's been on that basis, claiming, using, and defending.
Yeah, our rights shall not be infringed upon. And now you see this terrorist. DHS puts out this terrorist alert about people that have questioned, that even question basically what they're saying. Anybody who questions the government, the 2020 election, all that. Now you're deemed as conspiracy theorists, who is deemed a bad actor for now you're deemed a terrorist. Have you seen this? That
Yeah,
came out just a
domestic
couple
terrorists.
days.
Yeah, I need to read more into it, but I did see it only like kind of like on a headline level. It didn't surprise me at all, although it still should concern everybody, because we have old time political warfare going on here. And political warfare is where they want to identify their enemy if they haven't already. And that's what this stuff that's going on. That's what this stuff that's going on is happening, right? Well, they're trying to identify who their political enemy is, and then once they've identified who their political enemy is, then it's a matter of isolating, demonizing, and to destroy. So they try to isolate their enemy, and then then if they can isolate them and keep them from being able to speak out, from being able to express themselves, they censor them, all of that. Then while now their political enemy cannot speak out, they'll demonize them. They'll say how dangerous they are. They'll say all of these things, right? And it's all an effort to get the majority of the people to think that their political enemy is this really dangerous, demonic type of people, and then they can justify destroying. So, we don't let them identify us if we can keep from it. They've done a pretty good job, though, because of the way that they've laid this all out. And we can't let them isolate us. We keep speaking out. We keep doing what you're doing right now. We keep, speaking the truth and countering their narrative. Because if we do, get them to the point, or if they do get us to the point where the majority of the people in this country think that we're the most dangerous thing, then they will try to destroy us. They will try to do many things to us.
It's so polarized right now. It's so divisive. I mean, you got the people that are masking up, and then you got the people that want liberty and sovereignty, and you could see the clear divide more than ever now. Yep. I'm in El Paso, so it's a very liberal. It's Texas, but it's still very liberal. And I mean, I go to a grocery store, and every single person there is wearing the face diaper. You can just see pretty much, how this scam, and I'm going to call it that, got played out and put on the public as a whole, and how many people have bought into this and are willing to give up their freedoms and liberties for safety. It's unbelievable.
Yep. No, and like you said, just break it down. Political warfare, isolate, demonize, and destroy. And that's what they'll do: isolate, demonize, and destroy. And if we just have to stop, that's exactly what they've tried to do to my family, and they haven't been able to do it completely. They tried. They even threw us in prison, and the reason why is that's the place where they can isolate the most. And we got people in prison right now for going to the Washington, D.C., and that's what that's all about. They're not, they're keeping them in there because those people know the truth. They understand what went on, and they're keeping them and isolating them from everybody else from being able to express that truth. And then meanwhile, what are they doing while they're in there? They're demonizing them to the rest of the world. They're trying to make them look like they're something that they're not. And why? So that they'll take plea deals, so that they can win trials, because they're tainting the jury pool right now, making them look like they're the most wicked people in the whole entire country. And they're hoping that in the end that they can destroy them, but they have to demonize them. And in order to demonize them, they have to isolate them. So let's not let ourselves get in that position. Keep countering like you're doing.
And let me ask you this. You spent 2 years in solitary confinement. How was that, man? Like, how bad was that for you? I mean, did you feel like giving up? Were you just at your end of your wits? Or did you stay strong? Did you hold the line?
Well, ultimately, we did stay strong, but it was very difficult. And, it really came down to it. It's so hard. Like I can handle it myself. Like I could handle it, but knowing that I have 6 children and my wife and my children were very young at the time. My youngest was 1 years old, and my oldest was 12. And I've got 3 boys, 3 girls. And to know that they're out there, suffering and hurting and not being able to be with them. And just, that's what was the most difficult. Never once we were able to have any physical contact with our, never able to hold them, lay our physical eye on them. Never was there a time where, all of that was terrible punishment for us when we committed no crime. But ultimately it come down to really just a raw belief in God and faith that he was going to deliver us. And if he didn't, that he had another plan for us, and that we just had to be okay with that. Otherwise, it would have been, we would have just lost hope.
So
And
your
one
faith
other
in
piece,
God got you
yeah,
through all of this.
yeah. Believing that God was going to bring justice, justice to the situation, that he was going to free us, and that it really come down to that, because there was points where, like, if the oppression and the pain and the suffering was so great that I felt like if there was not justice, that I didn't want to live. But not only I didn't want to live, if there wasn't a power strong enough to bring justice, then I didn't even want to exist in the universe. I didn't even want to exist, because that means that the wicked always win. That means that there's just suffering and pain always, and but knowing that there was a power that was strong enough to bring justice in this life and in the life after, knowing that gives me great hope that, look, we're not always going to have to fight the wicked. We're going to prevail, and we will get peace and rest. It might not happen in this life, but we will. And because why? Because God is the creator of the earth and the universe and everything in it. And he has the power to subdue the wicked. And he allows the wicked to have these powers in this life because we're here for a purpose. And so, that's my belief. And understanding that kept me going.
That's a strong message, and I commend you, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. And before we go, I wanted to talk about how you're running for the Idaho governor. So, how's that going for you? How's the campaign going? How do you feel about it? What's going on?
So they tried to dismiss me when I entered the race, and that was a mistake for them, because now so we have a governor who's an incumbent and a lieutenant governor that threw her hat in the race, and I'm now polling right in the middle of them. So I'm chasing the governor. The lieutenant governor, I kind of go back and forth, but no one can say that I am not right in the middle of this race, that I'm not winning this race. I'm not a politician. And so I entered this thing in. I am a businessman. I've got some good background of organizing myself and getting good teams together. And we're really, really making some waves here. And so, anybody who wants to give their support, go to votebundy.com, and, give their support in whatever way they can. And because the political climate is just right in Idaho for someone like me. And we're making we're making a lot of waves here.
Yeah, I mean, you're a backbone for people, man, and I commend you. You've done it. There's no one better than you for Idaho governor, man. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying
So,
that.
can you say one more time where people go again to
So
donate or help out?
Yep. Votebundy.com. Very simple. Votebundy.com.
Votebundy.com, folks. Votebundy.com. Ammon, thank you so much for joining, man. I'm going to premiere this tonight on FluffTube, because I think we skirted by we didn't use any buzzwords or anything. So
awesome. I'll send me the link. I sure appreciate it. And if you want to do it again sometime, let me know.
Absolutely. I'd like to as your campaign moves on and we get closer, I'd love to have you on the show a few more times.
Very good. I'll look forward to it.
All right. God bless you, sir.
You too.